Hello, all you cosmic travelers and wanderers. This is Darlene Grift and K. Melissa Waterman, inviting you to join us today in our episode of Expansion from Within, Exploring Multidimensionality.
Let me introduce you to my friend and dear colleague, Darlene Grift. She is a lifetime experiencer, a medical intuitive, and a multidimensional mediator for over 35 years. She's also an author, an artist, a teacher, and a mentor for spiritually invested people.
And K. Melissa Waterman is my friend and colleague, and she's an intuitive mentor, a spiritual teacher. She also works with energy on many levels. In the past, Melissa has worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza on his research team.
Join us on our journey of meeting multidimensional beings, exploring what it means to be human, and expanding our spiritual evolution. So today we're going to definitely be talking about multidimensional beings and exactly what that means, what we think about that. The first question I have for you today is, are these beings connected to our soul? And if so, how? How does that work?
So multidimensional beings they're not all connected to our soul. So if you have we have a group that I believe that comes in with us, several, could be one, could be two, it could be more than that, of who we have been in the past. So they live or they exist in another dimension. They're another part of us that is not in this dimension. They're living somewhere else in another timeline. Okay. So they are part of our soul experience. Okay. So they're part of that, but it doesn't mean that they are so separate from it. And we're not connected to all multidimensional beings. There's millions of them out there that are probably connected to other humans, or maybe not, but we have our own way of resonating and understanding the connections that we may have with certain multidimensional beings because they're on our timelines. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I guess I want to get really specific about it, though. I'm thinking about how we're integrated. Yeah, could you say more about that? If there are multidimensional beings that are connected to us, specifically you have some that are connected to you, how are you integrated with those multidimensional beings? What does it look like? How does that work?
So the integration process, it comes from choice, I believe, because everything on this planet comes from choice, right? The curious part of ourselves, the one that say, okay, first you have to agree that within yourself that you are multidimensional, or why would you even be looking for multidimensional beings part of ourselves? So it's understanding that, it's getting clarity on that. Then it's about developing the relationship, because they do exist on another dimension. It's not like you can call them up on the phone and say, who are you and how are you and what are you about and all of that. So going to somebody, whether that's somebody like that deals with past life regression, or somebody that can tap into more of who you've been in a past life, a past timeline, bringing those forward so that you can understand them better, so that you can move into more of a relationship, which takes time. It's not like you're just going to go, wow, okay, and now I'm integrated. It doesn't work that way. It's more of an understanding. You develop a relationship with them, and as you develop a relationship with them, just like you do in a normal human relationship, right? Is that a husband and wife that have been married 30, 40 years, they can finish their own each other's sentences. They know what the other person is thinking at the time, or a look on their face, or any of those. So there's a blending or an integration in some way in relationships. So that integration comes through knowing them for a long period of time, understanding them, getting clarity about who they are, or actually who you are, because a lot of the multidimensional parts of ourselves on our soul level, well, not all of them that are on our soul level, are parts of us that we've experienced at another time. So it is another timeline. It is another lifetime that we experience. They're not separate.
Right. You get that. That's mind blowing, right? That's really pretty amazing, because what you're saying is that there's an aspect of you and me, that we each have aspects, maybe many, that are having existence in another place, not just on planet Earth, but possibly on planet Earth, but certainly on another dimension, which could be another planet, that could be another whole timeline. It could be anywhere really. And
Right.
that there's a way to have access to those multidimensional beings so that we could have a relationship with an aspect of our own self that's connected to our own soul, that is on a soul journey, like we're on a soul journey, only it's the same soul journey. Same soul journey.
Yes. Yeah, same soul journey. It's the soul, if you want to look at it that way, the soul is that thread that goes through all of these lifetimes that we're connected with, because you can't, my experience and belief is that you can't attract to you can't bring in another energy that is in some way resonating with this particular form, right? So it's
Right.
your soul. So, like, so there's three parts of me that exist elsewhere, that because they're part of my experience, I come to know them. And so we're more blended, we're more integrated. There's more of them understanding who we are, as well as we understanding who they are. So it's a relationship. So there's more of a, so it's, yes, it's looks separate, but that's how we have it configured in our head,
Right.
is that it's separate. Same as time doesn't really exist, right? So they all
Right.
exist at the same time in this present time. We just can't see it. We don't identify it. And we're not taught that we can.
Right. I'm thinking about the relationship and how, if I have a soul part that's also a multidimensional being that is in another place on the planet or off the planet, and I'm having a relationship, I've become aware through meditation and things we've talked about in earlier episodes of this little endeavor. And I start to have an integration with them where I know them and they know me, and we're becoming connected. We're not just connected intellectually like I am with you. We're
Correct.
connected on something much deeper because we are part of the same soul line, because we're connected to a thread. So that leads me to think about how I might benefit their experience and they might benefit my experience, because if we're all on a soul journey, I mean, from what I understand, our soul journey is about our evolution as beings.
Right.
And so the information that could come from a different aspect, like a different point on that soul line, so to speak, could be quite invaluable. Do you get what I mean? Is that true?
Yes.
You think?
Yes, that's true. So their gifts, if they have talents, if they have, it's that place of, you can incorporate that into this lifetime. So we are living in this lifetime, but you can take some of that, you can glean some of that, you can share some of that, right? So that it accentuates it, it helps us here to be more of who we could be, right? And how we serve them, because it's a figure eight, it's a
Right.
give and take. It's not like, oh, I want this and you don't get anything. How they serve us by coming in, and we get better because of it. We have a better understanding of ourselves, or we can access some gifts or talents that they may have, right? So that's how we get it. But we serve them because we are on their timeline. So we're bringing us closer together. It's not like that being is here and we're here and we will never connect because we don't have an understanding of how to do that. So now we bring it together, right? And that does serve them. They're pulling all their pieces together, just like we're pulling all our pieces together, at least as much as we can understand.
I love it. And so I guess then it would be reasonable to assume that our soul has lived previously in different dimensions.
Yes.
Do you believe they have individual lives and individual personalities? Like
my experience, yes, they do. They have families, they have emotions, they have individual lives, they have, a lot of this in working back with people with their timelines is, what their life, what that multidimensional part of ourselves, what is the significance of their life that has affected this one? Okay.
Right.
So that if they had something that was not complete in that lifetime, their life ended too early, they didn't complete something, they, you can bring that forward to do a healing with them so that they're more free, one, which means you're more free because you're not holding on to that, right? And sometimes our patterns here that are related to there in another dimension or another personality, another being that's part of us, right? That a lot of times if we can clear them, it clears us. It's like deja vu, right? We might be in a place and go, wow, that is really familiar, but I've never been here. Well, where do you think that comes from? That's a possibility that you lived in, or that area lived in that time, that area, whatever you're deja vuing about, that you have some kind of resonance with that.
Right.
And so
Right.
that coming forward, and if you investigated that and just instead of dismissing it as deja vu, wow, that's interesting, but you investigated that and you found out more that, oh, this was then, or, this is who I was a young woman then, or I was a man then, or whatever, you're integrating already through the knowledge.
Right. The thing that strikes me, that I imagine that it's interesting to other people, not just me, is that I think I've come into this idea of that there are beings, and of course they're multidimensional, that because how else could it work? But that they are already smarter than us, and they're already more evolved than us, and that they're already cooked, they're finished, they're like the things we want the wisdom from, rather than, oh, that they're me in another stage, in another place, in another, in a fractally kind of connected way, but that they could benefit from my wisdom, I don't think I'm the only one who just thinks I'm the one who needs all the help, that they have all the answers and I'm the one who needs help. And I think the more we talk, the more it's clear the playing field is level, and that
Right.
I'm a benefit to them as they are to me.
Yes.
Just in the existence and the knowing that there are more aspects of myself. It's just a benefit.
Because it's a relationship. So when you think of even having a relationship now, do you say, oh, I'm less than that person, or, there's the creating of the equality.
Right.
I bring something to the plate, to the relationship, you bring something to the plate. So it's the same with them. It's a handshake. It's an agreement. It's an understanding. It's a relationship, because they are getting stuff. They are getting knowledge from us. They're getting the experience. When we become more integrated, right?
Mm-hmm.
They become part of our life. So even though they don't change our dynamics, they don't change our physicalness, they don't do that, but they are part of us in this experience as best that they can be. So are they growing from that? Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's great. So the next question is it helpful for us to identify with these parts and know their personalities? It's a two-way street. So there's benefit for me to understand their personality, and there's benefit for them to understand my personality, that it's a continuation of the relationship.
It's a continuation, it's a broadening, it's a deepening, and an expansion process of knowing that within, right? Of knowing who you are within in a more expanded state. And it's helpful, at least as how I've worked with myself and with others, it's helpful in them getting a different consciousness. It opens up their consciousness to something more profound of who they are, who they've been, and not just who they've been, who they could be, who they will be, because you bring in future aspects too. It's not limited to the past.
Right.
If there's no such thing as time, then there's 300 years from now, there's 1,000 years from now,
Right. So let's talk about time. Let's just go right to some of the questions around time, because it seems very clear that time is the next issue. How can we relate to time and multidimensionality? How does the knowing of multidimensionality change how I see time, how I experience time, what my relationship is with it? How does it change?
So we've been taught that there's time because it gives humanity structure. Then we can work the way that we work, and then we know that it's time to go to school, it's time to go to bed, it's time to do this. It's we live in that confinement of the structure that works really well when you need to be structured and confined. In the multidimensional place, that doesn't exist. So there isn't any layers. Like even people that you go from the third dimension to the fourth to the fifth, and we have to view them as separate, but they're not. They're a blend. They're a continuum of, here's my experience in the third, maybe I'm in the fourth, then I go to the fifth or the sixth or the seventh or the eighth, or wherever infinity can take us, and whatever, and many dimensions that we don't even know about, right? Those places of the time is broadening our perspective of saying, okay, so if time doesn't really exist, and it's just a structure for humanity to function, because it doesn't exist for them. They can be thousands of years old, but they don't even keep track of it, because it's not this time limited thing where you only got 90 years or 100 or 120 years. They don't believe it. They don't function in it. So therefore it isn't. Right? Because our belief systems are what creates our parameters of how we attract things. So if we believe in that we have a limited time, we're told that in many ways, right? That you're not going to live past 120, and that is rare, right? Maybe years ago it was, you're not going to live past 60, right? So if we believe that, then we tend to create it as our reality. So their time doesn't exist. And that's the place that I think humanity can move to at some point. That time doesn't exist. And then what would change for us?
Right. What would change for us? How would that benefit us to be without time? Would it be that we're just really good at staying in the moment?
That would be excellent, to stay in the moment, to be present, to not just staying in the moment too, by the way, is really acknowledging everything that is going on within you. So it's not just here. It's not just staying in the moment. It's just that focus of right here. It's what emotion is going through you right now? Are you neutral, or are you feeling something? How is your body working in this moment? What's around you? What's your surroundings? What are you picking up from others? It's all of that. That's all about staying in the moment, because anything past that, you're moving into another perception. You're moving into another reality, really.
Right, which is pretty much made up of what I imagine. It's not necessarily real, right? From my vantage point, if I start thinking about what the future is going to be like, I'm making it up because I don't know what the future is going to be like. Or if I'm worried about what happened in the past, I'm probably using that energy to create something in the future, right?
Yes.
Rather than the purity. It's almost like a clean slate. This moment, this actual moment, doesn't have a to-do list. It doesn't have any, it has no little point to the future. It's just now. It's just now. So
it's just now. We should talk about at some point, not this conversation, about seeding the field, because that's part of taking that, being present and putting something out there that could be an intention, so that you're co-creating with the field, you're co-creating maybe with your multidimensional beings, you're co-creating in that way. So seeding the field, I think, would be interesting.
I think it's a great idea. And I think we seed it all the time and we don't know it. And we're probably seeding it in a way that isn't so hot if we're drawing from our past, especially.
Yeah, especially if there's fear involved, right?
So I don't think we reviewed this question, so it could be a little rough. If the concept of time is removed, is it true that these aspects of us, these multidimensional beings, are always influencing and impacting our lives now?
I wouldn't say always. Always is a big word. It's like forever, right? Always is a big word. So I wouldn't say always. I think that even if we're unaware, totally unaware that there's multidimensionality, totally unaware that there are moments, there are possibilities, there are things that, like deja vu, or like you have a dream that you've been, and you absolutely know when you wake up, I wasn't here, I was somewhere else, right? You're in the middle of a conversation and it feels not just really familiar, but you start to get body sensations in some way about that person or whatever. You know, it's all those pieces are who we have been, possibly, right? That are trying to communicate, that are saying, because if we open that door in this 3D dimension, right, with the possibility that, oh, maybe that synchronistic thing had a meaning, or maybe that dream had a meaning, or, you know, that deja vu had a meaning, and you start to explore it, you start to expand and explore it, then you're already starting to invite information in, whether it comes in through your intellect of knowing exactly that, oh, that, you know, this was this being, you won't know that initially. It's going to start to seep through so that you get broader and broader opened, you know, you're open to more potential, to more possibility.
Wow. I think that's spectacular. I mean, that concept of it really pairs with being in the moment in this way that's so aware that we're not missing it. We're not missing the synchronicities, or we're not so focused on the future or the past that we're not actually, you know, here. We're not actually
You miss a lot.
Yeah, we're missing a lot.
We miss a lot, you know,
Yeah.
when we're in our head. You know, we've heard that for years through, you know, therapy, stop being in your head, you know, be present, be conscious, you know, because if we're in our head, we miss a lot. We're not tuned in. We're not aware of the physical body. We're not, you know, we're somewhere else thinking about what we're going to do, or think about what we just did.
Yep. I agree. I agree completely. Well, I think those are all the questions that we have for today.
Well, that was very good.
I know. Do you have anything else you wanted to say today?
No, I think that it feels like we're on a good trajectory of what we're speaking about, to inform people. I mean, that's what I see this process as being about, is to inform people that we're not stuck. We are not only who we are. We are much more to that. And knowing the concept of we're more than that, there's way to utilize that we're more than that.
That's right.
It's not just a belief. Yeah, we're more than that. You know, we're multidimensional. It's not just that. It goes way beyond that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. All right. Well, I think we're ready to end. And I just want to say that we will be opening to questions. Like, you can post them in the comments below, and we'll collect those questions, and we may not ask them the very next session, but we'll, you know, try to get them organized in a way that ends up being helpful to everyone. So please feel free to ask questions.
Great. I look forward to our next meeting.
Thank you.